Our stories, our voice, our history hasn't always been welcomed. But we learned long ago that if America won't celebrate us, then we will celebrate our own, told our way, on our time. Today we have thousands of Black creators in film. Thousands of books are on the shelves of stores around the world. But it wasn't always as easy. For Lena, for Hattie, for James, for Zora, for Langston, we fought for a place in American history, and we've empowered our own voices, keeping our stories alive. Remember Philando, remember Mike, remember Trayvon, remember Sandra, remember Oscar, remember Brianna. No more will Black voices go unheard. No more will Black stories go unread. We will write our own history and create our own legacies. And each summer in Atlanta, we will gather. We will celebrate. We speak out. Black voices matter. Black stories matter. Black lives matter. Everybody has a story to tell. Make sure that you tell yours. Create your story. Dream out loud. For me, this was always going to be what I was going to do. I had told my mother at 12 that I was going to move to Atlanta. I was going to be this full-time authoress, and I was going to just tell stories. I never wanted to be anything other than that. And I've been writing stories since I was maybe 8, 9 years old. And for me, it was just in me. Like, people know how to naturally sing. They know how to naturally dance or paint and draw. I knew how to tell stories.
Hi and hello. Welcome to our panel, The Art of Conversation Leveraging Diverse Personalities for Professional Growth, which is ultimately a mouthful for networking. I'm Summer Hightower. I will be your moderator today. And let me introduce you to our panel. I'm going to start with Miss Solois Steele. Solois has more than 25 years experience in HR and DEI. She currently serves as vice chair of the NAACP, community chair of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Endowment, and has founded Purpose Driven Connection LLC. Welcome, Solois. Our next panelist I'm going to bring out is Shay Primus. Shay is the owner of Upper Echelon Matchmaking, which is a boutique matchmaking and date coaching business for Black single professionals nationwide. You may recognize her from Bravo's Love Match Atlanta. Welcome, Shay. And finally, I'm going to add in our third panelist. This is Wadey G. Are we going by the G? Wadey?
Yes.
Wadey is a blogger and content creator behind the G Listed, a medium that reflects his love for Black pop and LGBTQ culture. And welcome, Wadey.
Thank you.
How's everybody doing this evening?
Awesome.
Very well.
It's good.
Good. So I
Excited for
handpicked
this
each
panel.
of you for this because I know each of you, and I knew that all of you were really good at networking, which is something that my introvert self very much struggles with. So I thought if we were going to do a panel on networking in preparation for Black Writers Weekend, for those of us who may struggle with networking or for those who might just want a few good tips, I thought I'd bring in the experts. So let's start. First question, what does networking mean? What does it mean to you? So Lois, would you like to start with that one?
Well, I can start. And, actually, I'll give a networking example because I'm doing a shout out to my sorority sister, Shay, who I discovered is a Delta. Is that right, Shay?
That is right. Oops,
So that's a quick network right there, by the way.
It is.
Awesome.
But
Huge network.
networking is really all about building relationships. It's making a connection, an association, doing something that gets you involved with a genuine desire to give and receive. That's how I kind of look at it, because typically when you're reaching out and you want to make a connection, you want to make sure that you have something to give to the person you're trying to make a connection with, as well as in receiving something for you. So that's what it is, and it's developing relationships to really increase your business or enhance your knowledge about something, or, be an influencer, expand your influence and get opportunities. So that's what networking is to me.
What about you, Wadey?
I agree with everything she said. I will just add to a phrase that I used to hear often is your network is your net worth. Sometimes people just only think money wise, but I also believe that means in rich in experiences, your opportunities, your career growth, your professional growth, all of those things. So it's not necessarily money when I think of net worth. And then also just to piggyback on what Lois said, also too, it needs to be a mutual. It needs to be a mutual action. So it's not just what's in it for me and me only, but then also too, what do you have to offer? And it doesn't have to be in comparison to the people you network with. It's just a two-way street, no matter how the meeting goes.
Yeah.
Shay, anything you want to add?
Yes, I think for me, it is a way of life. It is every conversation, every interaction, every person I meet is understanding who that person is, because I don't believe that there are coincidences. So every time you meet somebody, whether it's a waitress, whether it's somebody driving by the house, wrong address, whoever it is, there's a reason y'all came in contact with each other. And I look at it as an opportunity to figure out what is it that this person has, or who this person knows that I might need, or what is it that I can offer that this person might need of me. So I just don't believe anything is coincidental. So if I pass by you, I'm going to probably start a conversation. I'm going to know, why did the universe make us cross paths? What is it that I'm supposed to get from you? What is it that I'm supposed to know about you, and how can you help me, and how can I help you? And so I think if you look at it from that perspective, you see that we have so many opportunities to make connections, and so many opportunities to grow your business, but also, you might be of service to somebody else if you stop and just ask a few questions.
You make a really good point about how we network. It used to be, when I thought of networking, it was specific events. This is a networking event. We're all here to kind of network. And again, as an introvert, I hated it.
Yeah.
I just had the hardest time trying to find a way to connect with a stranger. So how do you guys typically approach like making a new connection? What do you do? Help help me.
Personally, I don't like networking events. I don't like an event for this action. I just do it in general. So for me, that could be sitting at a bar. I'm a matchmaker, so I'm always looking for single men. So I could be sitting at a bar. This gentleman's on the end sipping on a drink. I send him a drink. I send him a refill. Like, I say to the waitress, "Hey, refill his drink. Tell him it's on me." Now, as an introvert, you could easily do that because you're not talking to him. You're just sending him the drink. When you send the drink, he is gonna come though. By the way, so when I send the drink, they usually come, and that's when for me, it works because I'm like, oh, you look like somebody I want to introduce to one of my clients, and I just take it from there. So I like to do it anywhere that there's another person. It doesn't have to be a specific event.
Hmm.
I will say too, I really love what Shay said about that too, because I don't even think of making connections and talking to people as networking. I think of it as being in a universe, being with, whenever I'm around someone, I might just say, hey, what's going on? How are you doing today or whatever? And then you never know what that person's going to feed back to you. So I think there's two different things. However, sometimes you are deliberately in a room to specifically make, connections and network that's different than just being in the environment. Because, like Shay says, I'm always talking to someone, I'm always introducing, I'm always wanting to get to know. I'll stop and sit. If I'm sitting at a bar or something, having a drink, I'm going to talk to whoever it is the next person is. And you can feel it out whether they want to talk to you or not. But typically, people want to say something, right? But I think when you're in the room, there's a different type when you're doing it for a reason. So I also have networking experiences where there's two things: it's intentional and it's purposeful. And sometimes I'm doing intentional, purposeful network, which means then I'm going to know exactly who I want to see in that room or at that event. And I know exactly some information around them, and I know what the purpose of me doing that is. But for the most part, I probably, I mean, it's so normal and so natural. Like Shay says, it's just kind of having a conversation wherever you might be for whatever reason.
I agree with both of them because for me, some are just like you. I'm an extreme introvert. So for me, it is a challenge when it comes to going to networking events. Early on in my professional career, I always thought networking could only happen in networking events. So then, and most of the ones I attended weren't like Soloists where they had purpose driven. It was just like a general, oh, if you're a professional in this arena, or if you're this age, or just graduated from college, come, and I would go. But then for me, connecting with someone cold turkey, a stranger, and try to start off with small talk is very uncomfortable for me. So after a while, I avoided networking events. But then I figured just being out in public or in certain small groups and even larger groups where I just feel comfortable or people feel comfortable talking with me. There's people who just randomly want to start conversations with me. And I know as an introvert, I don't feel like it, but I go with the flow anyways. Not because, I'm doing it just to be doing it. I know there has to be a good reason or there's a purpose within it. And it's some of those random conversations have turned into opportunities for me, or in some way I've helped another individual. So networking, especially in today's age, is not the standard of go to this event for this mixer, this happy hour, and network with anybody. I can remember a couple of organizations I joined about 10 to 20 years ago that were just that. People from all different professional backgrounds, different ages, different everything. So why am I networking? I tell them what do I do, but I'm not sure what I'm going to get out of it. So for those who are listening to this discussion, I mean, really take Lois's advice. When you see networking opportunities and you're thinking about it, make sure they do have a focus, or something that will drive you to get some kind of results from networking, not just to be going.
So
Um,
let's talk about, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
One thing I wanted to say is that with social media and the internet, I think it's very good for introverts because you don't have to do it face to face, So there are some opportunities that you can do online, which introverts shine in those spaces. Social platforms like LinkedIn, perfect for professional connections. Facebook even has groups of whatever you're into. There is a Facebook group there. You can network with those people there. So there's some offline things that you can do that's not face to face, that's not in person, that can still be just as powerful. I've made some many powerful connections online without having met the person. So
Social media has changed everything when it comes to network.
Everything. And
I'm
thank you,
very
Shay, for
grateful.
bringing that up because it has worked for me. I don't know why I didn't think of that, because I would say, especially in my journey as a content creator, which has been close to 15 years, I would say about 70, maybe 80% of my networking came from social media and
Mm,
being an early adapter of some of these social media platforms that are now used by everyone. Facebook, I remember promoting myself through Facebook and through Instagram and Twitter in the early stages and would get, lots of attention that way because not everyone else was thinking of using those platforms in those manners. So yeah, definitely social media.
So Shay mentioned sending over drinks. I'm wondering what else do you do for ice breaking? I've heard people are starting to send over like wings,
Yeah, you
Shay, like in restaurants.
Yes, there's no rules to this. You can send over anything. You can send over a compliment. You could just, hey, can you tell
Yes.
that girl I love her dress? Can you tell that guy he has some nice shoes?
Mm,
It really there is no limit to this. So I think there is no rules. You can do whatever you want to do, and
exactly.
really a person's either gonna like it or they're not, and that's always gonna be. You have a yes or no either way. So you just take your chances. There's a 50% chance that this person might say yes or they might like it. So I think for
mhm.
me, I'm also a natural risk taker. So, and I know from a dating perspective, men don't get complimented a lot. Men don't get touched. Like we get touched, like, hey girl, I love your dress. They don't get that. So I use that to my advantage. If I'm somewhere, I'm gonna brush up against them. I might take
Uh-oh.
some fake lint off their jacket. Like, yeah, and I'm gonna compliment him and I'm gonna, oh, those are some nice shoes. I like the way you coordinated your outfit. And then just start up a conversation. But for those of you who might be intimidating, you can also do something like that offline too. Somebody posts a picture, you can slide in their DMs and also give them a compliment. So it doesn't have to be face to face.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I'm a risk taker in the other way because I approach people all the time. I approach anybody for anything, for any reason, and I just like to make a natural connection. And in my career, and Shay, you would probably say this in Wadey as well. I mean, I've had the opportunity to meet U.S. presidents, movie stars through BET, because I'm on the Image Awards committee. There's a lot of things like that that puts me in the space with different types of people. And so it's really kind of understanding where you are, what you're doing, what you're doing in that point in time. Like if I'm in a bar, I might do something like what Shay talks about. So kind of where are you and what are you doing at that point in time might sometimes direct your approach as well and what you might say.
Yes.
Mm.
I agree with you because when you talk about being in those specific settings where you're meeting, let's say, notables or dignitaries,
Mhm.
or just even professional people from any walk of life, when you're in those settings and you're looking to network, you should one know who your subject is, at least some kind of bare minimum where you could compliment them or remark about something that you know about them that's current, number one, or maybe a great achievement. Because I remember doing that a lot when it comes to going into those spaces with celebrities and dignitaries and such, where I am an introvert, but I realize, wait, I know this about this person. Let me congratulate them on releasing their new book or releasing their album or a great speech that they performed a week or two ago. And that's how it usually starts. And then also, too, I want to add to Shay's point of when you do reach out to someone and maybe you don't get the I don't want to say rejection, but you don't get the response, a positive response of wanting to continue the networking. Never take it personal. It just wasn't meant to be.
Mhm. Yeah, I think
So,
for me,
oh,
I'm so sorry, Summer. I
no, go
always
ahead.
think of something after you said something.
No,
I
go
was just
ahead.
gonna say one things I do when I do go out is take pictures with everybody. So then
Mhm.
my icebreaker when I slide in your DM is sending the picture that we took. So it could be a huge person, right? A huge personality, and I want to match them. Let's say it's I don't know, Rihanna if she wasn't with somebody, and I would take a picture with her and I would slide, remember we took this picture. I met you at such and such and such. And that way it jogs their memory. Oh yeah, I remember you because I'm right there in the picture, so they can't forget. And then I go and say whatever I want to say. Because sometimes it's not the right opportunity to pitch what I want to pitch in front of all these people, or this person might be very busy and there's several people coming behind, but we take a quick pick, then I can slide in and pitch it however I want to pitch it later. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's smart.
Yes.
Now, Wadey says he's an introvert, but I just want to go on record with saying I disagree. I've
Okay.
never seen him on any level be an introvert. Everywhere he goes,
Everyone
he's a
else
friend.
says that, but I tell you this, the nerves that I have on the inside when I spark a conversation or when someone really sparks a conversation with me, I prefer it that way. But then when I know that I need to do it, the nerves are on high. So yes,
Really,
yes.
You
And
know,
I've tested the Myers-Briggs test, extreme introvert.
thank
can I
you.
make a
Oh,
comment
really?
about that too? Because, in all honesty, there are some introverts who are the absolute best networkers. And you never ever know. There's a really good friend of mine, really great, smart guy, just knows everything, just really easy. Talk to you would never, ever, ever know that he was an introvert unless he told you he was. And he says he does it because that's his job. That's what he has to do. And so you can become that person that does that, that networks, if you are, again, this is where you're intentional and you're purposeful,
Hmm.
because there are some great introverts who are networkers, and I just have this thing about introverts and and extroverts being just as strong and just as powerful and just as important, as each other. I don't look as one over the other because the introverts have great values. But again, Wadey, I can see where you might be, because I have a great example where you never know sometimes that a person is an introvert, but they're working harder to make
Yes.
make those connections.
And I think
And I
one thing
tell
to
you,
keep, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say, I think one thing to keep in mind is not just introducing yourself to a person, right? That's part of it. The biggest piece of networking is the connection afterwards. So, hey, I met you. Now, what am I going to do with that? And to me, that's where introverts shine because they tend to be more detail oriented. Like a lot of times extroverts are big picture. It's like, ooh, I'm gonna go to this big event, I'm gonna do this thing. But an introvert is the one that's done the research. I know if I meet this person, I can connect them with this person because they know that. So that's where an introvert shine, if you ask my opinion. So it's not just meeting the person. Yes, I'm not scared to walk up to anybody. That's half the battle. After
Right.
I walk up to them, then what? What am I going to say? How am I going to reel it in? How am I going to close the deal? How am I going to seal? How am I going to say, I need to connect you with this person? That's the biggest piece. It's not just meeting a person.
And that's the part
yes,
I was
and
going to
just
say. I
oh,
think, sorry, I think my relationships tend to be few but very deep. And so when I
Exactly.
connect with someone, it's usually on a specific thing that we're both very passionate about or very interested in, and we connect and it's easy. And it
Yep.
doesn't feel like networking. It feels like I've connected with somebody who's just on my wavelength.
Yeah.
And so I
Introverts.
think that's part of the networking part that I think I kind of struggle with is it feels very transactional and it feels, I don't want to say false, but it doesn't feel genuine. And
Yeah.
that's the part that I just have a hard time. I hate
Well,
to say
the
faking.
networking word is really dated right now
Hmm.
anyway. I
yes,
mean, it's
yes,
really more about building relationships and
Yes.
establishing contacts and
Yes.
connections is more of a term,
Yeah.
because that's really what networking is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think
yes,
and I think to your point, Summer, you make deep connections and that's what people will respect. Like it's not you just doing it because it's a networking event. You're doing it because you really care. And I think
Hmm.
that's where introverts would shine, I would say.
Hmm.
So I don't believe in and like you said, so it's not a this person does this better or this person does this better. You have to look at what strengths you have and then capitalize on that. If you're good at going deep, if you're good at making connections, do that. If you're good at meeting people, introducing yourself, do that. But I think you need both, honestly,
you
because
absolutely do.
you can't get deep if you haven't met me, and I can't get deep if I haven't introduced myself. So you need both of them. You need both.
And
Well,
you may
that's why I
not get
love
deep at
connecting.
all. You may not even need to get deep. So
Yeah.
that's
Very
the other
true.
part.
But see,
Very
that's
true.
why I love connecting with extroverts because what I'm being challenged to come out of my shell that I know I could get out of. It's just I can't do that with another introvert because while both sides have their superpowers, I feel like when you're together, it could either really work or just probably get nowhere. And so so I see myself with another introvert. We need to have exact commonalities, bond over that really quickly, and then because that's how I operate. I don't want to say operate, but when I do get into a networking conversation or just getting to know someone, connect with them, I do see like, okay, let's get to the point. What's the end game here? Versus an extrovert will strike up a conversation, probably trying to get analyze me and get to know me a little bit more to figure out, okay, where I'm going to drive this.
Mm-hmm.
And I let them
Mm-hmm.
because especially once I get more comfortable, at first I wouldn't, but then I realized, okay, we're in this conversation because I
Mm-hmm.
don't like small talk. That's why I'm very much introverted. So when I'm approached by an extrovert, yeah, I kind of like jump up on the inside. But
No.
then I realized with many of them, they're taking me to a journey where, okay, this is how we're going to get to know each other. This is where I could see we connect because I feel your energy and this. So it works. It works. It's just for those of us who are introverted, I just say, don't feel intimidated, go with it. And you never know. Like, I mean, regardless of introvert, extroverted, avoiding connections, avoiding the opportunity to connect. You don't know what kind of blessings you're missing. You don't know
Mhm.
what kind of opportunities you're missing. And also, too, not everything has to be a transactional that's professional. Some of my networking opportunities have become friendships,
Mhm.
long-term friendships.
Mhm.
So what I know we're talking about as creatives and as professionals in this discussion, but also think of the bigger picture. You just want good people in your life. You just
You
want
do.
deeper connections by every means necessary. So don't
Mhm.
be closed off to it.
Yeah,
Do,
social networking, and it's just as important.
do you ever
Yeah.
feel like you don't have anything to offer this person? Like, say you're meeting Rihanna and she's in a relationship. Who, like, what are you offering at that point? Is it
So
still? Go
yeah,
ahead.
so for me, no, I leave no stone unturned. You could be gay or straight, you could be married or single. Everybody knows some single people. Period. Everybody does. If 50% of the population is single, so if you tell me you married, you tell me you gay, that's all right. You got a straight single friend. I need to know them. They need to know me. So I leave no stone unturned. And you telling me that you're married is not a no for me. It's but what about your single friends? And you're like, oh yeah, Keisha and Johnny. Yeah, introduce me to them. That's how I do it.
I'm going to call you after this.
Yes, please do. Please
Uh
do.
oh.
Please do.
I'm going to network with you after this.
Let's do it. And honestly, to this question, Summer, I get my matches for my clients at events. I go to professional events because that's where these quality people are. And most of the time they are introverts. I tell my clients this all the time. Those scientists, those little geeky guys that's just busy and you need that. That's a husband. You need that kind of dude. He's not running the street. He's making good money. He go to work and come home, maybe play a video game. That's what you need. So I go to these professional events, and that's where I meet. And these men are like, oh my God, I need a wife. I don't know where to find them, and I have no game. I'm not going to approach anybody at a restaurant. Perfect. I'll take you from here. So that's usually what I do.
So when we're talking about events and we're looking at people who are introverts and extroverts, how do you create an inclusive environment that's going to let everyone shine? Do you plan for that? Is there icebreakers? What do you do?
You mean me if I have an event?
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, events are not extrovert. I mean, introverts don't shine at events. If I'm just being honest, they just. I mean, they just don't. I mean, they don't in general, unless you have a one-on-one conversation and you get them like really interested. Then they kind of open up, but they're not working the room. They're sitting. In general, I'm making a very generalized statement. They're
Yeah.
not shining in this. This is not a space for them to shine. So for me, my job is I'm gonna promote and market this introvert because I already know that about them. You don't have to shine. You hire me, I'll do it for you. I'm just gonna bring the people to you. oh, have you met Summer? She's great. You need to get to know her. Like, I'll do that because they're not going to shine. There's no point in even making them do it.
Well, I'll
So,
kind of I'll do a contrast to that though, because I just mentioned to you, I have some really good friends and people that I know that absolutely will shine in a room, and they will meet you. They will walk up to you. I met them like that because they came to me, and I was approachable and they talked. And so you just, in those cases, you don't know if they're introvert or not, because
Yeah.
they're doing what they need to do to be in that space and to make the connections that they want to make and to enjoy and have the fun. But when they're done and they leave that room or whatever, they may be exhausted
Yeah. That's the
because it took
difference.
so much work for them
Uh-huh.
to do it.
It
However,
drains them. Yeah.
introverts can shine at parties.
Yeah, so what I mean, let me say
so,
it differently. The people who are not working the room, whatever they are, they're not going to shine in that space. Whoever those people are that are just sitting there, the wallflowers, those are the people that I don't think this is a space for them to shine unless they're doing a one-on-one, situation where they could open up, but they're probably not working the room. Whoever, because some people are ambiverts, which is what I think you're describing in this man that you're bringing up, because an ambivert can turn it on and turn it off. And
Right.
so an ambivert in a social setting will be just like an extrovert, but they still get drained afterwards. Extroverts are going to be, out there, outgoing all the time. An introvert is not. They are not going to do that. More than likely, there might be an outlier, but more than likely, they're not going to, interact with everybody.
so I like to use my personal experience and tie in between your 2 points, which will prove Summer's earlier point in a way, because this is where people don't believe that I am an extreme introvert. And I said, look, I take that Myers Briggs test all the time, and I'm all the way I, never the E, never even halfway. So I host events here and there, whether it's for my 9 to 5 firm or for personal, for friends, for whatever communities and such. And as a host, I'm engaging people, whether I'm hosting a karaoke night or some kind of award show or interviewing celebrities or whatever. So this is where people think, "Oh wow, you're not an introvert. You could do this. It feels like you're natural." And I said, because I come in with the intention of succeeding at what I'm being tasked to do. So really, as the extreme introvert that I feel like I'm having an out of body experience when I
Oh, wow.
when I turn on the hosting, when I turn on the interviewing, when I turn on the emceeing gig of me. And like you both said, at the end, I'm so exhausted. I'm ready for bed. Thank you for the compliments, but I'm tired. I'm gone. Like, enjoy the rest of the night or the after set, whatever you do, but I'm gone. But also to feel fulfilled that, wow, I actually did that. It's each and every time, and I've been doing this for over a decade. And but each and every time, if I were to have a hosting gig tomorrow, whether it's for 20 or 200 people, I would still feel accomplished after it's over, because I don't know who that guy was that hosted 200 or 20 people. I know this person who's calm, relaxed, very comfortable with 3 other people, but not around 20 or 200 people. So yeah,
Well, when you're
but
working,
yeah,
when you're doing that, you're actually doing your
yes,
job, you're working. And so because you're working, you're doing what you need to do that supports your
I
work.
turned that on, right?
Exactly.
You're like
Because
Sasha
I tell
Fierce
you, I
and
can't wait to turn
Beyonce.
it off.
Yeah, you're like
I'm
Sasha
still
Fierce.
figuring out my alter
Beyonce,
ego name.
Beyonce swears she's shy too. She swears. It's Sasha Fierce when she's on stage. She swears that she's a shy little girl, and I'm like, where? So maybe you're like her.
Well,
Yes, and
I
she's a
always,
Virgo too. So
oh Lord,
Oh, a
don't get him
Virgo. That tells
started.
me everything I need to know. Yes.
See,
Michael Jackson as well. So,
And
there he go.
he's shy too. And so yes, yes, you could probably turn it on. You could perform.
I
yes,
always
yes.
tell this story. When I started grad school, we took the Myers Briggs test, and then they basically had all of us stand up, and they told the extroverts to stand in one area and the introverts to stand in another. And so I'm standing there in the introvert section, and we're all quietly standing there waiting for the next instruction. We didn't introduce ourselves. We didn't shake hands or anything. We're just standing there. No one's uncomfortable because, sure, we're just following instructions and just waiting on the next step. Meanwhile, the extroverts across the room are high fiving, they're clapping, they're introducing themselves to each other, they're all laughing and just having a great time. And I'm watching it, and it was the first time I thought, wow, that is the difference. Once you're in
Yeah.
your element, all of them were so excited and jumping around, and we were all just spaced out. We weren't touching. We didn't play. I didn't even really look around at who was with me. It was just like, yeah, this is where I prefer to be. And so I think when it comes to networking and things like that, kind of like what you said, Shay, I feel like I'm not going to shine at this. And so
Hmm.
I don't even want to attend
Yeah.
because, one, it's going to be draining for me. And two, I'm probably not going to speak to anyone. And if I do attempt the small talk, I have this thing where in my head, I'm thinking, are you doing it? Yeah, okay. Yeah, she smile. And I feel like on the outside, I'm making this weird face of, yeah, as you're talking, and I'm overthinking it. I'm sweating now. I mean, it's just it's just terrible.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you feel, because I could attest to this in my earlier years of networking events, is I always prefer to be introduced. Instead of trying to walk up to people, I would be around someone who's well connected, say, hey, oh, meet Wadey. He does this, and this person does this and this. That's usually like the, what do you call it? What is it, training wheels that I would need to go ahead and make the interaction happen as it should versus me walking up to someone or figuring out, okay, where do I begin or who's going to talk to me?
Well, it depends. So again, if this is someone who we are both really passionate about something and you've introduced me to someone and we click, wonderful. I If you know me, I talk. Like I can talk. We can talk about things in depth. And you all know me and know that I can talk. But there are also people who will swear to you, people who have worked with me for 10 years, that Summer never talks. She's so quiet. So it depends. So you could introduce yourselves, and if there's nothing there, there's nothing there. And I don't know how to fake
Yeah.
it. And I honestly start backing away as you're
You're absolutely
talking.
right. I mean, what you're saying, Summer, it doesn't guarantee that you're still
Mhm.
going to make the connection that you really want to make with that person. And that's why, like when I started off, I said it needs to be intentional and it needs to be purposeful, or it just needs to be somebody you just want to connect with, period. But if I just feel like anybody can network if they really want to. And if you decide that's something you want to do or need to do, just like you have waiting, then you will do what it takes to be that. And it's a matter of understanding the value of making connections and building relationships and what you do with it from there. So again, it's intentional and purposeful for me. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just social fun. I just love to talk to people and I'll talk to anybody.
Yes. And to that point, I think one of the things you could do, let's say there was a event and you weren't feeling it, you weren't feeling social. I think with social media, everybody has an Instagram, so you can follow the people. You can write down everybody that you want to follow. Okay, this is Keisha and she does X, and this is blah blah blah, and this is their handle, and they do. And you follow up with them, and hey, I heard you speak at this conference, and I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it, and I really like
Yes.
X, Y, and Z. There are different things you can do. You don't have to like feel like you're performing. Because I
Mhm.
really feel like we don't all have to do everything. We can just be good at the thing that we do. Like
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
just because like I'm not good at math. I don't try to be good at math. I'm
Right.
very good with words. I do that. You know what I mean? So like
Hmm.
I think if you're good with connecting and you're good with understanding who needs to meet who and or following up with people, do that. Just shine in the area that you're good at.
I love
And
that
that's
shit
great
because
advice because I've done that recently on LinkedIn.
yeah. The reaching
Yeah.
out behind the scenes, I love that, Shay, because it's not always being a face to face right next to that person or with that person. But you can, if you're intentionally wanting to make a connection, you can find something about that person in a way to reach out and say, just like you said, I saw you speak last week, or, oh, I loved what you did with XXX, or I know
Yes.
so and so, and he told me to get in touch with you because he thinks you would be a great person to mentor me or do something. And so it's absolutely not necessarily always person to person, face to face.
Yep.
That's
So I
Same.
correct.
really need to stop worrying about being a burden
Yes.
or a gnat to somebody. Yeah. Because
Yes.
even then, I'm thinking sliding in and they'll probably be like, well, who is this weirdo that keeps sending me messages?
That's
I
the
slide
inner
in folks'
saboteur
DMs.
talking. Don't let that take over you.
But I will tell you, I slide in people's DMs all day. This is what I do. And some of them never respond to me. That's fine. But some of them do. And that's what I move on to people. You can't worry about the people who don't reply back. You
Yeah.
worry about the people who do. The people who show up are the people who's supposed to be there. That's how I look at it. So yeah, you slide in their DMs. I slide in Shannon Sharp's DMs every week because he always says something on his show, and I'm like, you need me to match you. And I'm always pitching myself, right? He don't see my messages, that's fine. One day he gonna see my message and I'm gonna be ready to go. So, don't
Okay.
worry about it.
Hey,
See, and
that's
I'd be
great
scared
advice,
that he would
though.
block me. Like, oh. So, has there ever been a particular connection that you had that you really worked for and you were really proud of once you got it? I know this is just off the cuff, but just
Uh,
thinking about.
Um,
Gosh, that's happened to
Yes. I
me.
mean, even though there are several, but one comes to mind just because of familiarity. Summer, my friend Gregory Douglas. So I met him through mutual friends about, I think it was around 2005, 2006. Me being new to the content creation, was talking about special events going on in major cities, and he was a big time event promoter in Atlanta. And I used to feature him, his events, and all of those things. And after a while, um, we stayed in touch, but didn't need that kind of like interaction until he started his annual trip, Memorial Day trip, where he needed what did he call me? Ambassadors, to help promote the trip, to help people get engaged. And with that, that even built my network even more because of the people that come to these excursions, people, the notables and the celebrity talents that he would bring. And that helped me even more from 2016 going forward. So I would definitely use that as an example.
Okay.
Mhm.
Anyone else?
Um, I think that for me, I would say with Rick Ross, for
Hmm.
example, um, just getting in his circle. Like I really wanted to. I knew I wanted to get in his circle, and honestly, not necessarily to match him, although he did ask me to match him. It wasn't really him; it was his network. So my goal was, look, this man is filthy rich, and he got all these rich people around him. If I can just match two or three of them, I'm good. Like that was my focus. It wasn't really to get him; it was to get his circle.
Hmm.
So, upon meeting him, I met his staff, I met his attorney, I met his marketing. I met like so many people within his network, and it has, that alone has just catapulted my business. So,
I see
it's
you.
not sometimes it's not the person, it's not the main person, it's their surroundings that you really
Hmm.
want.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I would just say a lot of it for me is because that's what I do, that I'm a connector. And I'll tell you that because here's what I discovered, that I was a connector. Somebody told me that, and I was like, what's that? This was years and years ago. I was working at General Mills, I think, and a CEO had an event, and some of us got invited to that as well. And so one of my colleagues introduced me to this dignitary, and it says, oh, she's a connector. And I was like, what? A connector? What's that? I don't even know what that is, but fine. But then it triggered something in me, and it's like, that's what I do. And so I do it all the time. So for me, I've had lots of challenges to connect to who I need to connect with. And so it
Hmm.
takes some work to do that. But in the meantime, there are other people who can shortcut that for you sometimes. And so you have to, like you're saying, Shay, you wanted Rick Ross, but you wanted what all Rick Ross had to around that. And for me, I've been in a situation maybe where I've made that major connection, and then I experienced, or I realized, wait a minute, there's a lot of other things that are happening here too that might be a really great benefit for me. So I love that example as well. But I think again, it's the deliberate, and sometimes it's not deliberate. Sometimes it happens as a result of making one connection.
Yeah. And I will say for me though, also to that point, Summer, that's why I was saying it's not just meeting the people, you gotta do something with it. So I
Yes.
think, and honestly, if I have to say something that I'm not as good at is my follow through. Like my follow up game is weak sometimes. I'll meet 50 people one
Yeah.
night and I'm following up with two or three instead of following up with all 50. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's something I struggle with. I have people that I texted from a meeting them and never followed back up with them. And that's my fault, and that's where I think you would probably do better. You would probably have a spreadsheet and you would probably be sending out all your email. I feel like you would do that
Who
better
told
than
you
me.
about my spreadsheet?
No, introverts are notorious for spreadsheets. I just kind of know this information. But no, I think for me, I'll meet all the people right at an event and follow up with a few of them. Is
Mm-hmm.
if I had to say something that I would do better, it's I would follow up with all of them. So that's probably something I could grow in. I could do better, but I'm a real extreme extrovert. So it's on to the next. And I was like, oh, I met a couple people and I'm moving on to the next. But really, if I took the time to go through every single person I met, girl,
Hmm.
I might be somewhere else by now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know we're down to the last few questions. I think what we'll do is I'm going to ask you all to give one piece of advice you wish you knew before that you think people should know if they're struggling or just looking for, extra information. And then just let us know where we can find you on social media if you want to be found. And that's how we'll end it up. Waity, go ahead.
One piece of advice.
Hmm.
You know what? I'm gonna kind of steal Shay's advice from a few couple of minutes ago, because that is what I used to struggle with, and maybe a little bit still, but not as bad as before. Was following up with people.
Hmm.
I mean, ask yourselves, what is the purpose of the networking? Of feeling good about the conversation that you just left and feeling amped about what could be the future when you don't follow up. And I was bad at that, really bad at that. And but nowadays I've become a lot better. I'm not 100% good at it, but I'm getting there. So just make sure you follow up, because also too, the person that you connected with may be the one expecting you to connect with them.
Mhm.
Okay. Hold on.
Okay.
Um, hold on. I just took our page. So Lois, go ahead and
That's
talk. Let me
okay.
see
I
if
would
I can
just
get you.
say that the biggest thing that I regret over my networking is I've had so many opportunities. Is taking advantage and nurturing those relationships and not just taking them for granted. Because, like the two of you said, you make all these great connections. What are you going to do with them? Again, it's being intentional, it's being purposeful around those, and really, developing the relationship further, because there's so many that I could have that I didn't take the time to develop beyond that. And they would have been open, they would have been totally good with that. But I would say that's a major piece for me, is to take advantage and nurture the relationships that are important for you. If you're intentional and you're purposeful about it, then that's what gives you the net worth that Wadey was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And Shay, I'll let you take us out.
Okay. I think both of them have mentioned being intentional and being goal oriented. I have an introverted boyfriend, so he always, whenever I tell him I'm going to an event, he'll say, "Okay, what's your goal this time?" I'm like, I need to meet 10 people. I need to meet 10 single men, and he's checking in to make sure I've done that, right? So
Mm.
I think set a goal when you go to any event, when you decide, hey, I'm going to go here, I'm going to meet X number of people. I'm going to follow up with X number of people. So just set your goals all the way through and hold yourself accountable, or maybe have an accountability buddy to hold yourself accountable to those goals, because it's one thing that it just go, but you need to have a mission. Now, for me, I'm always going to meet single men because the women come easily. The men I have to go find. So I'm going to find the men for my clients. So I'm gonna meet X number of single men. I need to follow up with X number of single men. What happens is I get the two that I need, and then I let the others fly with the wind. But I need to do better with that. So setting your goal and following up on your goals.
And finally, have fun. Make this
Oh
something
yes,
Oh,
fun, because it's a great thing to do, to bring people into your lives and for you to get into
yes,
theirs.
yes.
I agree.
We're
all
meant
right.
to
We'll
connect. I
try. Us
think,
introverts will try.
yeah, we're put on this earth to connect with people. This is what we're supposed to do. And there are different levels to it. Everybody's going to come in at a
Yes.
different level. So everybody's not going to be your very best friend, but there are different levels, and there's a reason you met everybody. There's a reason we're on this call together today. So that's what I
And I
think.
appreciate you all for coming. I'll let you go.
Thanks for
Thank you
having
so
us.
much. I'll be sure to follow up with each of you.
Thank you for this
Thank you.
invite, Summer.
Thank
Thank you.
y'all. Bye.
Bye,
Thank you. Bye
everybody.
bye.
Bye bye.